Yo, yo, yo. Welcome to the Friday stream, everybody. We're working on the second part of what we did last week. If you weren't here last week and you don't know what I'm talking about, check out some of the live videos. You can see the live Friday hacking on ZAP. Friday hacking on ZAP in the StackHawk YouTube channel. You can see me make a whole bunch of mistakes. We're going to cover some of those mistakes today and see if we can do this a little bit better. If you join the stream and you're watching along, give me a hey, what's up in the chat. If you got any questions about what I'm doing or what's going on while we're working through some of this stuff in ZAP, I can try to help you. Again, my name is Scott Gerlach. I'm the CSO of StackHawk, co-founder here. We're a dynamic application security testing service built on top of ZAP. So obviously, we love ZAP. Don't forget, ZAPCon is coming up March 8th next month, where you can learn lots more about things you can do with ZAP, how to automate ZAP, how to expand ZAP. If you want to take the easy route, come on over to StackHawk and we'll help you out. But lots of great stuff at ZAPCon. Amazing speaker lineup this year. So many great speakers. We've got the amazing Jim Manico doing a keynote speech for us. We've got a great panel about application security, keeping up with modern application development teams. And on that panel is Tanya Janka, who's an amazing application security mind. James Tabron, who is a reformed security person. He and I used to work together. He worked in security. Now he's a development manager. Guess who's got great insight into how security is screwing up integrations or involvement with devs? He does. Tomas Gonzalez from Sneak, one of my homies, one of my besties out there in the internet land. Tomas is awesome. And then let's see, Simon's going to be there. Simon Bennetts, the core. Simon Bennetts, Friday, need more coffee. Simon Bennett's the inventor and project lead for ZA Proxy as he calls it. I don't call it that. I call it ZAP. He calls it ZA Proxy. Whatever. Everybody gets the gist, right? You get the gist. Anyway, free conference, ZAPCon.io. Come register. Come join us. We'll hang out. We'll have a good time. We'll rip through a bunch of great content. The following day, there's amazing workshops on how to use ZAP and how to use StackHawk. Those are also free. That's right. I said free. And you know what free gets? We're gonna test this out today. Free gets this. Free. Okay, that was dumb. Here we go. So amazing workshops the day after ZAPCon. The day before ZAPCon, OWASP is actually putting on a bunch of trainings tied to ZAPCon. Those are not free, but they're really good as well. So if you're into OWASP training and you want to go check that out, don't forget to check that out as well. Let's see. Step 2 in my daily live stream. Check and make sure the audio is working on the live stream. So here we go. I'm going to do this off screen. You guys follow along with me. And if the audio is not working, I'm embarrassed again. But I think it's working this time. Let's see. Seems like it's working to me. All right. Last week, we were working on setting up a ZAP development environment. And we got stuck. You and I got stuck. Okay, mostly just I. But we got stuck trying to figure out how to make that work the right way and how to get ZAP to build. I talked with Simon about that the other day, and I didn't read a thing. So we're going to go back over what that means, and we'll go back over some of the stuff. And then we're going to get ZAP running from source code. And then the other thing we're doing today is we're working on content security policy rule. We're trying to make it a little bit better and give it a little more context. Make sure all of our really great descriptions don't disappear. And people who trigger this rule have a little bit more understanding of what's happening there. We're going to submit, hopefully everything goes well. We're going to submit a PR to ZAP. ZA Proxy. Wow. Man, if you got virtual coffee you can send me, be great. We're going to submit a PR. We're going to try to get some back and forth with some of the core team members right here on live. It'll be interesting to see how that goes. And then the other thing we're going to do is do a little bit of testing with ZAP on a little vulnerable Spring project I have. And we're also going to do the same kind of testing with StackHawk. I want to show you just a little bit how we take the ZAP concepts and make them crazy easy. Let me go close this door right there so nobody runs in and is like, oh my God, the house is on fire. House isn't on fire. 1 second. All right. The audio is working only in one side, so like not stereo. Interesting. I guess I don't know how to fix that particular problem. All right. Thanks for letting me know that the audio is working, but only in one ear. Why is that? Why is that? Sorry. Give me like I'm gonna try to figure this out. Right, we got OBS going here, and we'll see if we can figure out what's going on. Right. Okay. Yep. What about if I do this? How about now? Ooh, what about now? You get, hey Momo, I know you're out there listening. As soon as you get this, tell me if you get stereo sound now. I think I might have figured it out. Yep. Music feels on both sides, but voice and only in one. I think I figured it out. You tell me. All right, here we go. We're going to switch over to my desktop action here, and we'll get rolling. All right. Yes. Thanks. I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me know. Thank you for walking through me, figuring it out. I super appreciate it. Okay, here we go. Let's talk about how I screwed this up last week. Last week, we were following through a quick start guide to building ZAP. So that was bringing down the source code from GitHub, putting it on your system, organizing it in a way that made sense so that you can see all the good stuff and get the code. And then we walked through building ZAP with IntelliJ IDE. We followed all the way through all this information, which was super good, and everyone followed along, making sure everyone could see. And we got all the way down to here. We tried to run ZAP. And then we got stuck. And we got stuck because ZAP now has some optional mandatory plugins that need to run, and it needs to know where to find them. And so because we didn't read the directions, and we didn't see this part right here, we had a lot of problems. If you fix that, you fix the problem. So let me go show you what I'm talking about here. If we go over to edit configurations, that's not what I want. That is not what I want. I want this guy down here. And I want to do, it's probably up in here, right? Project structure. Wait. It's in the instructions. Run, edit configurations. Boy. Edit configurations. So we've got ZAP. And we've got this working directory thing. So now you can see We set the working directory to ZA proxy zap source main dist. You can see my whole path there. And that actually, what that does is when we run stuff like move, mandatory plugins and all the plugins, what that actually does, those two processes put the plugins right here, right? So this is all of the plugins that are mandatory and optional because I copied all of them. So let's just redo that work a little bit. We're going to go here. We're going to say bye. We're going to get rid of all the plugins. Because we've gotten rid of all those plugins, we can now go back to copy mandatory add-ons. So this is the mandatory add-ons. And run that Gradle task, which will then put in the mandatory plugins, as you can see here. Call home and call home and network. Both of those two are mandatory plugins at this point. So now we can technically run ZAP. So we can actually go run ZAP, and we're going to get crazy amounts of errors because we put no other plugins in there. But you'll see that ZAP actually starts. It's going, basically you didn't put anything together, so I can't do anything. Okay. That's a lot farther than we got last week. Good for us. So let's do the rest of the add-ons. Let's put the rest of the add-ons back in here. So that was copy mandatory add-ons. Down here under ZAP add-on miscellaneous. This is Gradle tasks. You can do this from the command line. I'm using IntelliJ Community Edition. It actually organizes Gradle stuff a lot better, in my opinion. It makes it make more sense, I think. So here we go. We're gonna do copy ZAP add-on, and again, we'll see a lot more add-ons get put into here. Copy ZAP add-on. I'm gonna run that Gradle task. Our plugins area, this guy right here, is gonna get real big here real quick because we're gonna move all of the ZAP add-ons into the source tree like so. Now we're all done. Now we can actually run ZAP. And it'll start and it'll all work. There we go. Run zap.main. Should get a development build of ZAP, which is exactly what that is. We're rocking, we're rolling. Here we go. So now you can see this is actual, basically ZAP from source. And it includes stuff like the ZAPCon 2020 schedules live. Learn more, which will take you to the ZAPCon schedule. So that's good stuff. Now let's do our test of our little website. So we've got this guy, not that guy. Wrong. Where'd my tab go? This guy. So we've got a little vulnerable application running here. So it actually has some problems in it and, does some things. That one was a sleep. We can actually inject SQL injection stuff in here. And there's also some cross-site scripting things in here, but that's not what we're working on. We're working on content security policy. So let's run a little scan of this site. We're going to turn off all of the active plugins. We're going to modify the default policy and turn everything off. That's all the active scanners. Now, if we want to go modify what happens in the passive scanners, that's in a different place. It's down here, passive scan rules. We're looking for CSP. Actually, we want to apply off to all of them. Then we want to come down here to CSP, turn it to default. There are two rules here that are content security policy. One's the release quality. That's the one that we're working on here. The other one's beta. That one I don't think is quite as good. This other one is really, really good. So now what this scan should do is only test for content security policy. So let's do an automated scan. Let's HTTPS local lol localhost. Oh man, localhost 9000. We're just going to use traditional spider. This is not a single page app, so we don't need the Ajax spider. And we'll just go. So if we jump over to alerts, you should see we should get content security policy wildcard directive all over the place. And that's because this is how the content security policy is set up in our little sample application. So what we did was we modified this code, and we'll jump into the code in a bit. I cannot make this bigger. Yep. Hold on. Let me see if I can help here. We'll do a little of this action. Hey, look at that. Bigger. Okay. What we did was we took this other info right here. This actually used to be the description in this alert. So the really verbose, robust description of what content security policy is. Additional security layer that helps detect, migrate certain types of attacks, including but not limited to cross-site scripting, data injection, blah, 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 blah. Like, that's a rich description. And what used to happen, when you would trigger this particular warning right here, this is what would end up in the description. Now, maybe that makes sense. Maybe it doesn't. It depends on how you're using ZAP and where you're using ZAP and how you're managing these results and all kinds of stuff. It makes it a little bit more difficult if you kind of don't know what content security policy is in the first place. It just goes, but these things are wrong. So you don't understand. So what we did was we took this information and we put that into the other info field in ZA proxy. And we're going to dig into that a little bit here and just kind of show you how that all works. Let me get back to normal screen size for everybody. So we can do a little more sharing. Okay. So again, we just moved, well, it used to be in the description to the other info. So let's take a look at the source code. Here's the content security policy rule, content security policy scan rule.java. That's the file we're working with and the file that runs this rule. Again, up here, you've got the plugin ID. So you can see our plugin ID 10055 is in fact 10055. If you ever wonder what's happening in ZAP and source code, here's how to figure that out. And down here, there's all kinds of information about how it's going to test the site and what it's going to do. Let's skip all the way to the bottom because we had to rework how this alert creator works. So this raise alert thing, here's what we did to this that was different. We added the other info field as well as the other info field here as part of the function. And then this morning, while I was getting ready for stream today, I actually added this alert ref. Now this is going to be something that's interesting to see how this goes across in a pull request, because this alert ref is a way that you can define sub alerts in a rule and associate them with the plugin. And it was all built out into the alert structure and it exists in the database and all kinds of stuff. There's not a ton that pulls this back out yet. I'm going to show you why it's going to be cool and important. So we're going to go. So that's how the alerts get raised in this function or in this class. So we're going to go find all the instances of raise alert. Here we go. Start from the top. Let's do start from the top. Nope. Start from the top. Here's the first one. So you can see this very first alert is X content security policy is an older header supported by Firefox. So basically what this is saying is if X content security policy options is empty, raise an alert. That is the first one. That's the first one. Yep, that's the first one. So what we actually did was take this information here, XCSP. We left the name and then we put this into the other info description. And this, again, where ZAP gets its messages is in this messages.properties file. You can see this is the ZAP extension source code here. Down here in main, ascan rules. Nope, not ascan rules. pscan rules. Down here, pscan rules. pscan rules, source, main, Java. You can see content security policy. Down here under resources is messages.properties, which is actually this. So what we're dealing with is pscan rules, CSP, name, description, other info, extended, references, solutions. And then there's a bunch of other names. So name, and then a name, and then a name, and a name, and a name. So now the title of this alert is changing depending on what's happening here. And the descriptions, this description is the main description for content security policy. The descriptions used to be linked to this. So it would be name and description, and name and description, and name and description, name, description, name, description. We changed that. That's part of what we changed. We changed those to be .otherinfo as the key. We also changed it to use that key over here. So this constant messages get string message prefix is defined up top, which then gets us to XCSP other info. Oh, we need to fix this. Look what I missed. Okay, so this one is xcsp.name, xcsp.otherinfo, xcsp.name, xcsp.otherinfo. This other one, which means that the header is going to come out as CSP : X content security policy, and then the description is going to be the same, but the other info is going to have more information on X content security policy. So that's going to be a little bit more informative, even if you have X content security policy, which is predecessor. Hey, Friday words. Friday words. Hold on once. I see your question. One second. X content security policy is a predecessor to content security policy. Understanding that you're supposed to be using content security policy, you have X content security policy, super helpful. I just noticed a bug that I left in there. So in our first alert is xcsp.name. So we're looking at xcsp options. The other one we're looking at here is xwebkit CSP, and I left the wrong name in there. Look at that. Thanks for debugging with me. Okay. Momo asked, if I understand correctly, you're instructing ZAP to raise an alert when certain conditions are met when it's analyzing an HTTP request through the ZAP spider. Are you programming the ZAP spider? I'm not programming the spider itself. I'm programming the passive scan rules. So ZAP has two different kinds of rules. One's called passive scan, and you can think about passive scan rules being like Google. Makes a request to a web page, looks at what happens in the web page and in the request, and that's it. Passive scan rules. Active scan rules are the ones that try to test things individually. They put in data, they try to break inputs and try to break parameters in URL strings, try to find cross-site scripting and SQL injection, those kinds of things. That's the active scan rules. We're working on a passive scan rule here. So let me flip back to ZAP and I'll try to explain what's happening. So you can see I've got a bunch of content security policy wildcard directive alerts in here. So if I pull up one of these requests like this, again, this is the same alert information, but the request response in here. So what happened there? Request. Okay, here we go. So I don't know. I got lost. Clicked the wrong tab. The request that the scanner made through the proxy was get localhost the root, right? So this other one was get localhost no slash at the end. This one's get localhost with a slash at the end. And then the web server responded with just normal content, right? This is actually the login page. You can see that we've got lots of login page information here. But what it did was go, this particular rule, because this is the only rule we turned on, when ZAP fed this response to the passive scanners, the passive scanner noticed that we have a content security policy, and it is set as script source self HTTPS evildoer. Now let's read through what we've got here. The following directives either allow wildcard sources or ancestor are not identified or are overly broadly defined. Style source, image source, connects source, frame ancestors, font source, media source, object source. Content security policy is hard to get right. Notice that what's not in here is script source. Like, we've configured script source correctly in this. So it didn't include that. All of these other ones basically turn into wildcards. So people can still frame my website, all kinds of stuff. So what we're actually working on is the rule that generates these alerts right here. Hopefully that answers your question, Momo. Back to ZAP. All right, so first one is X content security policy. So we set up that other information to be able to feed that right. The other thing we did was do this alert ref thing. Remember I was talking about alert reference? So what we're doing with alert reference is we're trying to make these a little different. There's a lot of different alerts that this one plugin can raise. Let's give it some kind of ID so that it's more associatable. So alert ref is plugin ID -1. This is the first alert in this whole plugin. It's 1. It's X content security policy. 2. X WebKit CSP -2. Let's see, raise alert. Here we go, .3. So this one is, so this plugin actually uses Salvation, I think, Salvation to check content security policy. And it's actually, this is our notices and warnings, errors, warnings, notices. That's kind of, I called that -3. So again, over here, notice, error, warning, info. That's all. The third one, it's telling you about like incorrect. Actually, I'll show you what that's telling you about. Java Spring Vulny is our buddy. So we're going to do, let's do that. So what we've done in Java Spring Vulny is set the content security policy directive to be this, which is actually invalid. You can't do that. So let's rerun Java Spring Vulny. Got him up and running again. Yep, okay, so it's running again. We're gonna clear all these alerts. And we're gonna do the same thing we just did. We're gonna say spider, that site. So your question about, am I programming the spider? No, but the spider feeds information to the passive scanner. So here we go. We're going to go spider the web pages, and we'll see what kind of alerts we get this time. Hey, look at that. So now we've got CSP notices as well. So we were just looking at the source code for CSP notices right here, right? CSP notice. And the CSP notice okay. So it's telling us unrecognized directive script source. So remember I just told you that script source : is incorrect. Check this out. This thing is now telling us script source is missing in our content security policy. So both of these things are actually really interesting and help you with context of what? What's happening? I have content security policy here. Well, your directive is missing and your syntax is wrong. So again, if we go back to Java Spring Vulny, we fix our : and We restart Java Spring Volney again. By the way, if you want to play around with Java Spring Volney, it's out at github.com/kaka, 2 A's, 2 W, KAAKAWW. Kaka. Wow, terrible. If you want to check it out, you can download that and play with it all day. You can mess around with some of these settings and see how that all works. But now we've fixed it again, so let's clear all of our alerts. And let's crawl that again. So we're going to do our spider again. Again, I've turned off all the active scanners and all the passive scanners except for this one. Here we go. Once again, we're back down to this wildcard directive. This is now correct. See how it doesn't include script source in our other info? We're in good shape. I really like how this is turning out. So let's take a look at our what differences we've made here. So we're going to go to Git and we're going to go to show diff from the working tree. Oh yeah, I've updated the unit tests as well. Now, collapse the Gradle. Collapse the project so people can see what we're doing. Now we can see all the changes that we've made in these rules. So we changed the description to other info. Description, other info. Again, we changed this from description to other info. Description, other info, description, other info, description, other info, description, other info. So that's pretty easy changes, right? Kind of easy to keep track of there. Where did my window go with all of our changes? So let's look at content security policy. We're going to start at that alert builder because that's kind of where the biggest changes are. The alert builder is towards the bottom here. So you can see from what's in source back to what we changed. We added the other info and the alert ref. And we added other info and alert ref. I probably should have done this in a different way to make it make sense because Rick will get mad at me. Other info, parameter, risk. Evidence. Alert ref, just like that. So now what comes into the function sort of matches how the alert's getting built. Now let's go back up to our instance of alert builder. Here we go. Here's where we changed. So we've got style source unsafe name. We're actually putting the description back in here, so the real description. And then we're adding the other info. So this used to just be the description as that other, what used to be called description. So now we're populating description and we're populating other info. We're also populating that alert ref, so plugin ID here. And that's kind of the same through all of these functions, right? We did the same kind of thing, sort of all over the place here. Made kind of a lot of changes up in here for this wildcard stuff, but that's because we want to use other info instead of description. So trying to keep it constant. Keep the descriptions the same. Same thing up here. This one actually does not have another info, so we had to add a blank line, and then also the plugin ID, plugin ref. And that's the changes that we have here. So that's the changes in those two files. And then we also made some tests updates. So let's go look at the tests. So you can see I added some directives into the test for good content security policy so that it reports correctly and makes sure that frame ancestors disappears when it's written correctly. So that's the first part of the test we fixed. And then we also made it say look for other info instead of description. So looking for that text in there. I think that's it. So I think we're pretty close to being able to write a PR for this. The only thing we have to do is add to the changelog. So let's go add to the changelog real quick. Pscan rules. Nope. I always forget where the changelog is. There he is. Unreleased. Can't spell. Oh, wow, you guys can't see that. I'm sorry. Here we go. Make it big. So what we changed, we moved the detailed information and content security policy rule to the other info field and added alert ref IDs. That's what we changed. So this is in the unreleased and changed to detail. So now if we look at show diff, we should see readme.txt is in here now. Okay, that did not work. Here we go. Let's try it again. Show diff. Oy. What did I do? Anyway, let's do two things here. We're gonna do a get pull from remote. From get remote dash v. So this shows me what remotes I have. Get pull origin main. Make sure we have all the latest updates from main. Now get status. So we got a bunch of files here that we're working on. This certificate dialog strategy thing is something I had to fix on my machine to make it work. We're not going to push that. That's not part of our change. What we're looking for here is these guys. So we're going to look, get, step one, get checkout. Hang on a new branch. So now we're going to get add add-ons. Pscan rules, so that all of our Pscan rule changes get added to our Git tree. You can see we're doing changelog, the content security policy scan rule, the messages.property content security policy scan rule unit test, but we're not doing that invalid certificate dialog strategy. It's for something else. We'll deal with that later. I need to add, let's go back to our web browser here. There was a spot that we needed to go to about get clone update remotes. So we got to update some remotes in my GitHub repo so that I can push all these changes to my repository in GitHub, and then I can make a PR across my repository back to ZA proxy. So I believe we have git remote -v. We've got origin as, nope. So we want to set those to upstream. So git remote, ooh. We can just copy and paste this. Except for that was the wrong one. So remove. Now we'll do the right one so we can put it in the right spot. And then we're going to do git remote remove origin. And out here, GitHub. Got my own personal fork of ZA proxy. ZAP extensions. That's the one we really need here. Yep, this one. Git remote add origin. So now you can see I've got an origin and I've got an upstream. So now I can push my CSP updates to my personal GitHub fork of ZAP extensions. So git push, nope. Oh, I almost forgot again. Simon did a great job of organizing some of this documentation about what to do. Make sure verifying your change, code formatting, run spotless apply. I forget this every time. Here we go. So we'll go back to Gradle. And we're going to go to ZAP extensions. And we're going to go to verification. And we're going to do spotless apply. And we're going to see if that changes anything. And the way that we can tell if it changes anything is we can do git status. Our spotless apply is still running. See how it changed our rules because we did a terrible job of typing. So spotless apply is really important if you're going to be working on that. We'll wait for that to finish. You can see it's actually changing some of the text and content. And we can actually do this. If we want to see what happened, we can go git diff this guy. So you can see it's making things nice. They're making it look nice. Putting that description all on one line. Breaking out the raise alert function so it's not all on one line. More readable. Spotless apply. Super important. So there's that. I think that's all done. What's the next one? Sonar lint. Let's see if sonar lint is doing anything for us here. Move this method. Raise alert. No. Wait, which one? 429. Return 15. I'm not touching those ones. I think sonar lint's in good shape. If I would have checked this before we started, I would have said that this is exactly what it would say before I started because I didn't do any of this stuff. So we're going to leave that alone. Existing unit tests. Let's run our unit tests. We're going to run the specific tests that we're working on because we actually worked on the tests. So down here in tests, content security policy scan rule unit test, run that unit test. So we're just making sure that we didn't break anything and what we added to the test actually continues to work. How's everybody's Friday? Anybody? Anybody have a good Friday? Excited for the weekend? I hope you are. I am. Not excited for Monday. We're supposed to get a storm. It's supposed to be real cold. More snow. Today, I'm excited for the weekend. Hey, look at that. All of our tests passed. So all of our tests ran and they all passed, which is great. So that's good shape. Back here, new unit tests. Well, we didn't do any new unit tests, so there's that. Verifying changes, good. Development rules and guidelines. UI guidelines, code guidelines. Style guidelines, app's name. I think we're in good shape. We ran our spotless supply, and we ran our unit tests. I think we're good. So now let's add all of our stuff back to git add-ons, pscan rules, git status, git status. Again, all the rules that we've just completed, kind of working on, are now in this particular. Sorry, I'm trying to keep this legible for everyone. All of our rules and all of our changes are now included in our Git, so we're going to push that up to personal. So that's origin again. Git push origin CSP updates. I did the wrong thing there. I want to use the Git version for my origin. Oh, Git status. Git commit. Okay, so we forgot to do a commit, git commit. We got to put this code into committed state. So git commit with a comment, updated content security policy rules to keep the description, to add more info into the other info field. How about add detailed info into the other info field. And then the last thing here is sign off. And this is a special Git thing that actually signs your commit. So we'll actually look at that a little bit. So boom. Now we can do git push origin CSP updates. Don't look. Can't see what my password is, okay? All right, so we've pushed that up to our CSP updates, and if I refresh my repo page, we should see CSP updates had recent pushes less than a minute ago. So now we can do create, compare, and do a pull request. So So this is me making a pull request back to ZAP extensions. So we're going to include a little fun tidbit here. Explain what we're doing. Sorry, I can't type and talk at the same time. So we're just telling the core team what we're doing. I move the alert detail info into the other info field to keep the rich CSP description. Also adds an alert ref to differentiate between all the alerts this plugin may raise. Updated the change log. Live stream the whole thing. So we're going to actually dump these guys a link to this particular live stream, because why not? I think that's pretty cool. So you can see we've got a sign off there, the ability to merge that into those branches can be merged automatically. There's no big changes. You can see the changes that we made summarized here in GitHub. We already looked at all of these, but this is again the same deal. What else? Yep, lots of good stuff there. So let's submit this PR. Create a pull request, and now we'll start getting some feedback from the maintainer group. That's it. That we just hacked along on our content security policy. I'm sure we're going to get some feedback from the core maintainers to like change some stuff, remove some stuff around. That'll be great feedback, because obviously I made some significant changes to this rule and added some information that is possibly useful. But let's see what they have to say. And that's as easy as it is. As easy as it is, we did this in 2 hours, right? I'm a security professional by trade, co-founder at StackHawk. I'm not a Java developer, but in 2 hours, we kind of hacked this rule back together to what I think is in a really good shape to keep rich, detailed information about what is content security policy, as well as rich, detailed information about what the problem is with the particular content security policy string or syntax or any of that stuff. Keep that all together in one alert. So we'll see how that goes. Now I want to kind of mess around with some ZAP and kind of show some people some ZAP, and then I want to show you some StackHawk at the same time, if that's cool. Again, all this stuff is stuff we're talking about over at ZAPCon.io. The ZAPCon conference is 8th of March. It's a free conference. Come learn how to use ZAP, hack on ZAP, develop on ZAP. Great keynote speakers from Jim Manico. Great panel about application security, keeping up with modern development teams. Lots of really rich content, and including the following day with workshops on how to use ZAP, how to use StackHawk. Free conference. Come over, ZAPCon.io. Go sign up, register, join us on March 8th. We're going to have a good time. So let's go over and let's play with ZAP a little bit and kind of walk through some of this stuff. So again, this is ZAP. And what we're going to work with at the same time here is our Volney application. Volney Spring app. So you saw me kind of in the code for this Volney Spring app. Let's look at how we can test this Volney Spring app with StackHawk or with ZAP. And then we'll look at how to test it with StackHawk at the same time. Again, if you're watching along, got questions, or you want me to dig into something specific, hit me up in the chat, shoot me a message. I'll try to hit it. So we're going to clear this wildcard directive, and we're going to reset ZAP kind of to just fresh. So we're going to go back in here, set our default policy to default. So that sets all the active scanners back on. And we're going to set our passive scan rules to medium to all. So now all of our passive scan rules are back on. As long as I delete this whole filter, we'll see all of that. So all of these rules are back on. Let's start fresh. We're going to make ZAP operates in what's called contexts. I'm going to move this over here so I'm more looking at you than across the screen. Hey. All right. We're going to make a new context, and we're going to maybe we're going to make a new context. Let's do this. Including context. New context. We're going to call this Volmy Spring. So you can see we're including the host in this context. We're not excluding anything at this point. We're not going to mess with this too much yet. We are going to play with this. So this technology setting is actually super interesting. It helps define what exists in the application so that it only is testing for what exists. So, and this particular thing is made with Postgres. So I'm just going to turn on the Postgres tests, which is great because now I'm not testing for all these other things we don't have. Man, my voice is getting dry. Let's see, what else? Language. Let's do a little JSP, some Spring, and that's it. And then also Linux, we're using Git. We're not using any of these web servers. Maybe Tomcat, we'll leave Tomcat on. So that's the technology. So that turned off a bunch of technology specific checks in ZAP. Let's run a scan from there and see how we do. So we're going to attack. We're going to do an active scan. We're going to use the Volny Spring context, and we're going to start a scan. So what that's going to do is go off and just start scanning the whole app and see what it finds. I'm going to show you a trick that is very interesting. You'll see that we kind of end up on search a lot, with payloads, lots of different pages. And we're starting to get some, oh, you know what? I think I broke authentication. Interesting. We're starting to get some alerts. So we've got a SQL injection for PostgreSQL. So SQL injection, we attacked it with a single tick. And we attacked it on the search text. And that thing came back and threw a P-SQL exception. So I would say, yeah, probably PostgreSQL injection. The other thing we did was have cross-site scripting. So we attacked it with double quote script alert 1 script. And it looks like that came back out, which is actually right here in the body, in the response. So that's, looks like we have a lot of SQL injection. No surprise here, this thing is built for SQL injection. And then there's a handful of other things in here that are very interesting, including proxy disclosure. I think this is actually wrong. There's no proxies here. We can dig into that a little bit later. Parameter tampering on the search string. Oh, we got this thing to blow up. We got a stack trace to come out by attacking the search text parameter. Interesting. So there's that. This form actually has a login. So user password. Interesting. Let's go play with some code, shall we? Not this guy, but we're going to look at Java Spring Volny. And I believe what happened was when we added this configuration, we disabled all of the authentication stuff. So let's fix that. Because not having auth doesn't make this look like a real app. So there's that. So we're going to make this 3, 2, 2, 1. We're going to restart. All right, search for the items here. Ah, there we go. Okay, so now this has, now we've put back the username and password problem. Oof. Again, like I said, I'm not a Java developer. Okay, let's delete all of our alerts, and we'll do that same scan again. Do an active scan. We're using this context that we set up. We filled out this technology. We're just using regular policy. Use the default policy. Lots of things to play with here. You know what I mean? Lots of things to set. Lots of things to worry about. We're gonna try to get as easy as we can. So now, actually, when we do a search, we actually get the login page. So every single one of these pages is gonna dump us to the login page now, except for some of the ones that don't. But that's interesting, right? So authentication is actually super important in this particular app. So it knows about a bunch of paths, but it can't get there. And you'll see that we actually don't generate any alerts because everything is sending us back to the login page. That's super interesting. We have to set up how this form authentication works. So we can do that by taking a look at the form itself. So let's go back into our context. Let's set up a user. We know that this user has a username and a password, so let's go add a new user. And the username is going to be user. Nope, no existing HTTP session. Okay, so we've got a user. We're going to do form-based authentication. The target form, login form target URL. That's where this sends its login information. So we can actually look at that by inspecting it. It goes to /login. So /login. And then where do we go to get the login page? Again, that's /login. Login request post data. So let's see. Login. Did we get login up here? That's funny. It doesn't know about login. So we can also look at this form a little bit and go, we need CSRF, so it should pick that up by itself. The username, this form field is username, so we're gonna have to mess around with this a little bit. You can see our active scan is finished. Oh, it's still working, but it's not finding anything. All of these things are just taking us to the login page. They're all 302ing to the login page. So like most modern applications, figuring out where the login page is and how to get through it is super important. Oh, login page. Let's see, has it found the login page yet? Nope. Basic auth, JWT auth. This thing has lots of different authentication pages and authentication methodologies, and in fact includes an open API, REST API, open API spec. But we're just working on the server-side app at the moment. All right, that's going to take too long. Let's stop that because it's not going to work. It's obvious that's not going to work. The other cool thing here is you can see the status of all these plugins as they run. Super interesting. Let's just do a spider. Start scan. See if Spider finds the login page. Here it is. There it is. That guy right there. And it posts to the login page. Cool. Now we can set up our auth. So here we go. Login. This one. This one is the get page for the login page. So get. All right. The username parameter is username. The password parameter is password parameter. Cookie-based auth, yes. Right, okay, yes. Regex pattern used to identify logged in messages. I would say that logged out messages would probably be easier. We got a 302 redirect on all of our logged out messages. And I believe we get 200 on all of our logged in messages. Form-based auth, yep. Different ways to set up auth. There we go. User, password. I think. It's been a while since I've done this. I think we have a form-based user authentication setup for ZAP. So that's how this all works. So now you can see we've included that in the context. We've set up our technology settings. We've set up authentication as to how authentication works in this particular thing. We created our user, who now has a username and a password. We're forcing the user, so user, session management, authorization, access control. All this is all pretty good. We're going to run a scan now with this. So now we can do attack with an active scan. We're going to use our user with our Volney Spring context and fire that off. So now look what it did. It's going after the login page here. Search. Uh-oh. I think I screwed it up. I don't think it's going to work. You can see that it's trying to attack. Some of these username, the login forms, trying to attack that a little bit. So the scanner itself did a request to the login page, and then it did a post to the login page. And the response was 302 back to the home site. So login actually worked. It did what it was supposed to do. Except for we configured this wrong. So this 302, we should look for something different. Probably the 403. So let's go configure this a little bit. Authentication. Logged out messages. 403. And in messages. So now we're looking for 200 status codes or 302 status codes. Logged out messages are looking for 403s. We've turned on every possible test, and some of them are not supposed to be on. Like example passive scan rule. We're going to stop that scan, and we're going to go make sure this authentication is working again. Come on, scan buddy. We're in the DOM cross-site scripting section. Active scan, user is going to be user. Start scan. So here's our history. Here we are logging in. Quest. Username, password. So you can see that the scanner is actually trying to log itself in here and is having success doing it. So it's actually getting redirected back to the home page. Active scan is going on right now. We're running through our script, or cross-site scripting, persistent, spider, cross-site scripting tests. And we can see we're getting some alerts. I didn't delete the alerts from the last time, but let's make sure that we're getting authentication is not working again. Authentication is so hard to configure. It's killing me. Anyway, that's the basics of how you set up a ZAP authenticated scan. ZAP authenticated scan, again, how you get the most value out of a DAST scan to make it log in past that login page. Because as you can see over here, if I try to go to search, we know that's a thing. It just takes me back to the login page. I can't do anything in this app unless I do that. And now I can actually search, and there's stuff in here, right? There's items. There's items in here. We have the best items. Probably the best items. Trust me. Nobody knows more about items. But items has a problem. And sometimes items doesn't do well with what it looks for. So anyway, we can find that. I want to show you how this all works with StackHawk. It's a little bit easier. So we're going to go back to IntelliJ. We're looking at this particular setup right here. This is exactly, I suppose I could have used these guys. This is exactly how we can set up a StackHawk scan for what we were just doing. So you can see I've set up that authentication stuff that we were just working on. Maybe it makes a little more sense. Maybe it doesn't. Logged in, logged out indicators here are anti-CSRF parameters. And what things do we not want to scan? So don't log ourselves out. Test path. So making sure that authentication is working. You'll notice that in ZAP, there is ways to configure this, but it's kind of hidden a little bit. We're running an entire scan. Authentication didn't work. I'm going to show you something here in a second. I also have this failure threshold set to high, so I can actually put this in CI/CD and integrate this. And then if I find something that is a high threshold, high severity, it can actually break my CI/CD. We don't necessarily need that here, but that's what we're working on. Again, I'm scanning a local host, StackHawk application ID. If you want to check this out on StackHawk yourself, 14-day free trial. There's a free for one application option as well. Everyone gets the 14-day trial. Come check it out. We can walk through that someday on a Friday. But what we're going to do is run a StackHawk scan against this same thing. So you can see I actually ran one before this, right? We've got output, we've got SQL injection and cross-site scripting, and I've done some stuff with these things. But now that I have this pretty simple configuration file, I can just do a Hawk scan. CLI tool, StackHawk Hawk scan. It actually runs through the configuration file, and one of the very first thing it does is check to make sure auth is working. If auth isn't working, it won't do the scan. So you'll see over here, I don't have auth working. This scan continues to run. A really powerful tool, Swiss Army knife, has every kind of possible tweak and configuration you could probably want. This is, let's make scans work much easier. So you can see our scan is already working. Our authentication is actually working. We passed our authentication test early, so now we're doing a scan. We're at 20%. If we go over to here, you'll notice some of the very similar stuff to what's going on. There's a bunch of magic happening in the background, and we changed how some of this works, but here's our scan running. And you can see that same kind of plug-in timing and description of what's going on. All these good things. You can actually see findings as they start to pop in. So I already know about a cross-site scripting. I've already made a status update of that, which is assigned. Sorry, it's hidden somewhere. Oi. You can also see I've got that SQL injection. So here on the search path, I've got a SQL injection and a response that kind of indicates that, hey, look at there, other info. I wonder why I'm trying to do what I'm doing with the other plugin. This is actually the other info that is popped out of the alert, so it can tell us interesting stuff. You can see our scan is finished now over here on this side with the StackHawk scan. Again, a lot of assigned tickets. So this is that state tracking. This is really hard, if available at all, in ZAP. You can't do state tracking between scans. I don't know about it. I don't know if I knew about it before. I don't know if I know about it again. I can't send it to a ticket. Now that the scan is done, it's going to let me do more things. So you can see that this cross-site scripting I actually pushed into a Jira ticket straight here from the platform. So that was pretty simple. This is how to manage ZAP at scale, right? Same scanner underneath, mostly. A lot of StackHawk specialty on top. Same scanner, same plugins, same alerts, same all that stuff that you're kind of used to with ZAP. But how to manage it over time and across a larger organization, or how to keep track of what's going on. Like our anti-CSRF tokens. You can see somebody made a note about these. Oh, actually, we turned them into a ticket. I assigned them to a ticket 3 days ago. So being able to triage and keep track of what's going on with these things is super important. But again, same kind of scan, right? Same information that you get from ZAP, but a lot better tracking over time, what's happening over time. Many applications all in one spot, all that good stuff. Like being able to roll this out into a organization beyond one person, beyond one app. That's what StackHawk's for. That ZAP scan, I'm sure we can get into next week. Let's get into how to make authentication work a little bit better, and let's cheat. Since we actually have the configuration that works, let's cheat a little bit and go the logged in. We're going to use this guy as the logged out. So sign out is the logged in indicator. We're actually going to pull the search path. Oops. Search. So let's see. That's right. That's right. That's right. CSRF. We got to figure out CSRF. There is in here somewhere. Oh, if I can find it, I'll be. Yep, cookie-based authorization. All right, I think that's in good spot. Let's go look here. There is a thing. That's right. I can't remember how to do this one. I'm going to have to get back to you. Let's cover this next week. Next week, authenticated scanning with ZAP. I'm probably, oh, you know what? We're going to check real quick. We're going to see if we got any feedback from the core team about our PR. Yep, feedback about that. All right, so we got good feedback from THC 202 core team member. We got some updates to fix up here. I'm gonna fix up some of the stuff that he's suggesting, and we will move on from there. Hey everybody, I super appreciate it. I'm Scott Gerlach, co-founder, CSO of StackHawk. If you joined us midway through, all the way through, at the end, whatever, I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed hanging out and kind of learning some stuff about ZAP, learning some stuff about StackHawk. Don't forget, ZAPCon, ZAPCon.io, March 8th, next month. Come register, free conference, learn more about ZAP, learn more about StackHawk. I hope to see you there. We'll see you next time, next week, maybe next week. Hopefully we can stream again next week. If we can't, I'll let everybody know and we'll figure out another time. Thanks for joining. Have a great weekend.